Women's Roadhouse press conference. Tomorrow, fans can watch the replay of this past weekend's football game against Angelo State on MyTV 16, beginning at 7 o'clock. Tomorrow night, volleyball will also be at home at 6 o'clock against West Texas A&M. That'll be their only home match this week. Wednesday night is the Coach Kerrigan Show, broadcast on Rock 95.1 at Link's Bar and Grill at Ratliff Ranch Golf Course from 6 to 7. Thursday night, men's soccer will be on the road at West Texas A&M in Canyon at 7 o'clock. Friday, volleyball is on the road at Texas Women's in Denton at 6 o'clock, and women's soccer is also on the road at Eastern New Mexico at 7 o'clock in Portales. Saturday is our second of two home events this week. Men's soccer is holding Senior Day against Lubbock Christian at 1 o'clock. Volleyball will be on the road at Texas A&M Commerce beginning at 1 o'clock, and football will be at Eastern New Mexico in Portales with an 8 a.m. Odessa time kickoff. And then Sunday, women's soccer will be at West Texas A&M in Canyon at 1 o'clock. And then Sunday night, fans can catch Coach Kerrigan on the Falcon Focus on CBS at 10:30. All right, this week we're going to start with women's basketball coach Ray Booth. Her team started practice a week ago, and they kick off their season in just under 2 weeks with games against Regis in Colorado Springs up in Canyon.
First one.
Yes.
Undefeated.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we spoke at Falcon Madness and you were saying you're really excited for practice to start the next day. Has it lived up to all the expectations so far?
Yeah, it looked like the first week of practice. So we learned a lot. Excited for week 2 of practice, starting this afternoon.
What have you seen so far? You said I learned a lot. What is the biggest point that you think the girls need to really work on at this point?
Well, we have 12 of our 15 are new, so the entire system, really. But they're catching on pretty quick, and it's nice to have a few returners back from last year. Last year, for me, everybody was new because it was a brand new system for all of them. So I'd say we're further along this year, and it's just nice to have, what we believe is going to be a lot of depth and players that really fit the system, that are competitors. So it was a fun week of practice, but a lot of learning. A lot of competition, and actually we have our first scrimmage this upcoming weekend, so we're trying to get as much in as we can just to have a gauge come Saturday.
How would you compare this first practice to last season's first practice?
I'm trying hard not to, just because I feel like that's unfair with 3 returners and us being able to recruit and really build a lot of relationships. Last year I didn't know any of these players until I arrived on campus the first week of school. And these 12 new players, we developed a relationship in the recruiting process. So I would say our preseason, we were able to focus on what we do as a team, how hard we work, a little bit of the system, and I think that just gave us a really great jump start going into week 1. So we're further ahead, of course. And I think this time next year, we're going to be further ahead this year because we'll have more returners. So having 3 returners back has helped the new people a lot.
So with all the new women, what's the, if you had to pick one name that you think is really going to turn some heads this year, who was like your preseason, check her out?
I'd love to give you one, but for us, it's not about 1 or 2 or even 5 people. We know for us to be competitive in this conference, we need to be competitive at every position. And so a lot of them, a lot of players, I think we're better inside. We lacked a post presence last year. I think we've got a lot of competition at that position. Our point guard spot, we've got good competition there as well. So those are 2 areas where I think, maybe not a name, but I do think our interior play and then our perimeter play is a lot more competitive in practice and should be in games.
You talked about the team kind of learning the new system. What have you kind of learned about a lot of these newcomers just from getting to see them play up close a little more often, just compared to whatever you can see on the road while you're recruiting them?
Everybody has certain strengths and weaknesses, but I think what we do as a team is we try to build those weaknesses up and capitalize on those strengths. So really seeing them, just be great teammates at this point in the year is really important. Great.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Thanks, Coach.
Next up is head football coach Justin Carey.
That's good. Whenever you guys are.
Same.
I don't know. Coach, I guess, obviously hanging in the game, I believe, tied going into the fourth quarter. And then, obviously Rams were able to kind of pull away in that period. But what did you like with what you're seeing from your guys, aside from the last 15 minutes, being able to kind of match them punch for punch, and, they made some runs, but you guys were able to respond back. What did you like about what you saw from your team from that standpoint?
All of that, the ability to play with them. And, late in the third, had a lead, 2017. Obviously, you'd like to be able to extend that lead and carry it through the fourth quarter. But our guys fought hard. They played well, executed well on both sides of the ball. There in the fourth quarter, a couple things didn't go our way, and that's kind of how football goes. And no matter what, you still got to play the next play, and try to recapture some momentum. And that momentum swung on us, and unfortunately, we weren't able to bounce back from it.
Going into a match on the road, obviously both your wins at home to this point. What's something that maybe you guys as a coaching staff are stressing about? When you do travel, maybe some things that you think have been a common theme that you guys can improve on from your previous road games heading into this week.
I don't really get into it much. The focus is just about whoever the opponent is that week. Try not to deviate and get into a lot of other stuff that doesn't really affect the outcome. The travel has nothing to do with the outcome. At the end of the day, you got to be locked in and ready to go. It's a little bit of a unique travel day, but it's similar to what we did when we went to West Texas. We'll go up the same day, and that Portales isn't that far away. A couple hours, and we'll eat over there, eat our pregame meal. And then from there, it's just going and playing ball. It's making sure that we're in tune with the game plan and ready to go execute.
I guess just to kind of follow up on that, is there specific on the field specific things that you've noticed with these road games that has been a common theme that you can improve on the field throughout these games, or is it kind of something different every week depending on whatever opponent you guys have been going up against?
Well, each road game is different. We started off with a 2.5-hour rain delay down in Houston. Kick off at 9:30, and then the next week we're up in northern Michigan, kicking off at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. We go to Tarleton and West Texas, the travel up day of. Each game's a little bit different. Each opponent is different. I don't think playing on the road has any great effect or influence on the game. Good atmospheres. Eastern New Mexico would be a good place to go play. And again, it just boils down to executing assignment and things of that nature. There's been times we've started fast. There's been times we've ended well. Defense has played well all year long. The key is just being more consistent throughout the game and in every aspect of the game.
Looking at Eastern New Mexico, what are going to be some keys to beating them on the road?
The first is stopping the triple option, and that's always a difficult task. That's something that our defensive staff and players have done a phenomenal job of the past 2 years. Last year, we held them to 20 points, and that was their lowest point total for a game in the entire year. And then giving us a chance to win, and that's the key in playing the triple option is being able to stop them and get that offense off the field. They want to eat up clock and try to make that game get over as fast as possible, and that's a big key to it. And then whenever the offense has the ball, play like we did last Saturday. 409 yards passing. Be able to put it all together like we've been able to do this year at times, and if we do all that, we'll come away with victory.
Speaking of the offensive performance last weekend, you mentioned Taylor's 409-yard passing stat line. I know, before you throw it back at me and say, what do I think about his performance? I'm just curious. So, 409 yards, he did 3 touchdowns, but he was hit and sacked, 5 times and a few picks. So what did you think of his ability, because it seemed like it was kind of on both ends of the spectrum, just if you're looking at the stat sheet?
Yeah, a lot of that took place in the fourth quarter. And obviously that was also where the game changed. One interception went for a touchdown. Some of that, there was 1 sack and there was a coverage sack. We went back and watched film. We had 5 seconds to get rid of the ball. You can't ask for a much better job by your offensive line going against the top defensive line in the conference as far as sacks go. I thought we did a good job for majority of the night. It got to a point there once they had the lead. It changed their defensive game plan some. It allowed them to kind of space out and kind of pin their ears back and get after the quarterback a little bit more. One of the interceptions really wasn't on him as far as route structure, things of that nature. And at that moment, that was where the tide turned for us. As far as Taylor as an individual, holy cow, 409 yards, he completed 68% of his passes. I would challenge you to find much better across the country at any level. Are there throws that you'd like to have back? I think there's throws Tom Brady and Drew Brees and the greatest ones would like to have back. Again, I don't think they were all on him. Unfortunately, as a quarterback, you kind of take that responsibility in that role. But to have a freshman go out there and complete 68%, 2 weeks in a row, over 400 yards, this time against a top-level opponent, an Angelo State and conference opponent, I can't praise the guy enough.
How just important, I know, obviously, quick start, you always want to get off to a quick start, but just, as you mentioned, with their option offense and, a potential situation where even if it was small lead, if they had the lead second half, fourth quarter, they could really maybe, with time of possession, that could become a huge factor. So how much are you stressing just offensively to be able to build any sort of lead so that, you don't basically have to try to prevent them from playing keep away in the second half?
I don't. Building a lead doesn't mean that you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
And I don't want to start talking about things that don't matter. If you're playing triple option offense, that certainly helps. But if you go back to just last year, we were down 17-0 at halftime, and we were able to come back and tie it up. And then they were up 20-17. We had a chance to kick a field goal to go to overtime. So being behind didn't affect us last year. Again, if you're able to stop them on defense, which we've been able to do in the past, and then it's up to the offense to go score some points. And it's play one play at a time. And I don't want our guys to think about they got to get ahead, because what if we're playing from 17-0? And you stress all week, you got to get a lead, you got to play ahead, and now they're behind. And in their head, now they can't win, because that's what you stressed all week. Just play the next play.
Good.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, next up is junior defensive back Xavier Brooks.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, Xavier, Coach has been praising the defense all season. What has it been that you guys have been able to, his favorite word, be consistent and, show up every game, if not for the entire game, at least for a good chunk of it?
Well, at first, I think it's the game plan. The coaches always put us in a great position. At the end of the day, it's just up to the players to go out there and execute.
So, now going on the road, trying to bounce back from the loss, what do you think is, the most important thing on a defensive standpoint that you guys need to just kind of do to make sure you guys get the win?
As Coach said, we just need to lock in, keep working hard, and focus on the little details.
What do you think you guys can improve on from last week?
I feel like we need to tackle better and just learn how to play the next play.
How do you feel like you guys have done? Obviously, this past couple weeks have been pretty solid in run defense, and that'll obviously be a key part for this week. How would you, I guess, just evaluate how you guys have been doing in that area compared to earlier in the season? I know you went up against some run-heavy teams as well. And how do you feel like you're possibly more prepared for it this year?
I feel like we're prepared for the run this week. We just have to tackle our assignment all week at practice, and we should have a good game.